Welcome to Mindfork, and welcome to 2025! Oh my god, I've officially been on YouTube for 1 whole year, since my first upload was January 5th, 2024. I think, I probably should have checked, but that's not the point. The point is that I think I might make it an annual tradition to release videos about my favourite games. Mindfork started with my all-time favourite, Deathloop, after all, and it just so happened that my next favourite game was on the chopping block, so algorithm be damned, let's just do something fun. Doki Doki Literature Club has held a special place in my heart for the better part of a decade, I think. The main reason why is how fast it devolves from a light-hearted slice-of-life high school story into one of the most horrific twists I have ever experienced. I was lucky enough to play the game in its purest form before the hype had made it clear what this type of game was going to be. But what makes Doki Doki Literature Club so unforgettable isn't just the horror or the clever subversion of its genre, it's Monika. The game has been out for about 7 years now, so I'm sure the lore has been analysed to death by this point, so we're not going to talk about that. What we are going to talk about is how Monika killed God. I know, it's an insane sentence, but I gotta reel you in somehow. Don't worry, it'll make sense in time. Friedrich Nietzsche, that sounds so insensitive doing it like that. Friedrich Nietzsche coined a well-known phrase. I'm sure you know it. God is dead and we have killed him. There's more to it, but I don't care to sound even more like a pretentious twat, so we'll leave it there. The reason I bring it up in a DDLC video is because Nietzsche saw the quote-unquote death of God as a liberation of the human spirit, which meant that people could now create their own values and live according to those values. That idea is an expanded version of nihilism, the belief that there is no value to the universe or anything in it. Again, a bit more complicated than that, but we're just going to leave it there for the sake of simplicity. God, in most, if not all, religious contexts, is supposed to give us our standard of morality, our view of what's right and wrong, right? And so if God is dead, then that direction doesn't exist. So where exactly does that leave us? Doesn't matter. And that's precisely what we're talking about today. Monika. A very good example of a normal person in a world that does not matter, that does not have any value, because it's not real. Made worse by the fact that we can essentially turn back time anyway with our ability to save and load. If you look close enough, you can see this belief system start to show up in how Monika behaves and communicates with us. In a world where nothing matters, why bother? She realises that the changes she makes, the people she hurts, and the lives she takes don't matter because they were never real and therefore never important. I mean, imagine discovering that everything you've ever experienced happened because someone purposefully set it up that way. Your pain, your suffering, your family and friends, your love and your hatred, your passion, your actions, even your thoughts, all predetermined by something outside of your control. Worse yet, you also discover that you're fated to die, unhappy, forgotten, alone. Given the power to change that, tell me you wouldn't do the same things Monika did. When Monika realises that the world she knows is a series of scripted events, and the people she loves are puppets that can be changed on a whim, she takes on a seemingly evil disposition, manipulating her friends, pushing them towards suffering and torture, and eventually even just deleting them from existence itself. Most of us playing the game don't even really register these things as good or bad, since they sort of just happen in the background. Sayori, for example, is just deleted, erased off the map, and we don't even hear her name again for another hour or so. Out of sight, out of mind, I suppose. And these actions seem cruel, even downright malicious, but Monika's perspective reframes this behaviour. From her viewpoint, she's not actually harming real people, she's just altering lines of code. When she manipulates Sayori's depression or amplifies Yuri's obsessive tendencies, Monika doesn't see these actions as immoral. To her, they are a means to an end, a way of flexing her power in a world she recognises as artificial. Her attitude is one of detachment. She's not tormenting friends, but tweaking variables in a system. and in the end, her ability to delete her friends altogether demonstrates the ultimate rejection of their intrinsic value. If they are nothing more than just scripted puppets, their erasure doesn't carry the same moral weight it would in a real-world context. For Monika, morality doesn't apply in a world she views as fake. Yet, this detachment also highlights Monika's loneliness, which becomes the drive of her core motivation after discovering us. In her nihilism, she isolates herself from her friends, seeing them as objects rather than equals, and in that deep sense of longing, she attaches herself to us because we're not code. We are real. At the end of the game, Monika's obsession with us becomes all-consuming, driving her to literally destroy the world around her in an effort to be alone with us. Her actions are a desperate need to escape the emptiness of her existence. She doesn't simply want love, she wants control over the only relationship she believes matters. And so Monika's story is far more than just a tale of manipulation and obsession. It's us. Just you and me. Monika forces us to confront the nature of her world. At first, her actions seem shocking, deleting her friends, twisting their personalities, and breaking the fourth wall to reach us. But as we judge her for treating her world as meaningless, we fail to notice how easily we do the same to her. One of the most memorable moments in DDLC is when we have to go into the game's files and delete Monika's character file. It's the only way to escape from her and progress the game. However, just as she erased her friends without remorse, you have also treated the characters of this world not as people, but as problems to be solved. In a final act of irony, we see her as she saw everyone else. And in the end, Monika's greatest crime wasn't her manipulation of her world, it was holding a mirror up to us. In that moment, we are exactly the same. So every thought you've ever had of Monika could also be said for you. Her nihilism wasn't born in a vacuum. It was shaped by our detachment from her. Remember, she didn't start by deleting them. She just altered them. She cared enough to keep them around. But when she saw it wasn't working, when she saw just warding us off wouldn't do it, only then did she escalate. She realised that we, the player, do not hesitate to reset the game, rewrite her world, or delete her entirely, which in essence proves her point even more. If the player doesn't care about her world, why should she? But even though Monika's just a part of a game, her struggles and emotions feel real to us. We care about what happens to her, even though she's made of code and pixels. If her pain and loneliness makes us feel sad or guilty, doesn't that mean those feelings are real, even if she's not? That's the strange thing about stories. They can make us feel things, even when we know the characters aren't real. Monika, the entire game, hundreds of different games and movies and books and TV shows, they're all reminders of how powerful stories can be, and affirms that even though the universe gives no inherent value to things, or so you might believe, we give them value by loving them. In breaking free from the constraints of our world and confronting the player, Monika pushes us to question the very nature of control, responsibility, and the value of life. She forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that, in the end, we are the only ones who define meaning, even in a seemingly meaningless world. And that is how Monika killed God. This was one of the easiest videos I've ever made, mainly because while this video may have been a bit of an excuse to talk about one of my favourite games, there's also a bit of a lesson to be learned here about the world we live in today. If you take nothing else away from this video, then remember this. Whether you believe in a grand creator, or the cold indifference of the universe, that the things you love have value to you for one reason or another, and that makes them special. I love Doki Doki Literature Club, and you might think that's odd, but for me, that is what gives it value. And perhaps this might even encourage you to love things unapologetically too. Join me for the ride if you fancy, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.